Welcome. I'm Kenneth Hine. I'm U.S. Editor of The Drum, and I'm so happy to have with me today Christian Juhl, Global CEO of GroupM and co-chair of the Drum Awards for Digital Advertising. So we're going to have a fun conversation today about, what does it mean to win an award? How do you win an award today? I mean, there's been so many opportunities, so many challenges also. How do you overcome them? What does creative look like today? And really, what does it take to win? So welcome, Christian.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here. So I'm going to start off with, GroupM, just a little bit about, your experience in this past year. What are some of the, challenges that you've experienced and just ways you've kind of pivoted, moved forward, and succeeded?
Yeah, well, look, I've only been in the job a year and a half now. And so when you look at that time period I started, no one ever predicted we'd be in this pandemic and going through that. So, I think a lot of people realize I came out of Essence, which was really a data and technology based media company. And then, my mission was sort of to transform GroupM into not only the largest media buying and planning organization in the world, but sort of the smartest and the most data centric and the most technology focused. And doing that kind of transformation agenda during a pandemic, it's a pretty unique experience I've had. So it's been actually a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it as much as you can enjoy these types of things, and really happy with the team we've been able to build. Made a lot of changes in a very short amount of time, but without a doubt, trying to do this all remote. I live in the Bay Area around San Francisco, and it's been a lot of early mornings and a lot of late nights. But I've been so impressed with our people and how everybody's dug in and how everybody's working on clients' behalf and working, really hard with each other. So it's been a challenge, but it's been fun.
Yep. I mean, I think it's been a challenge for the industry as a whole. And if you had to look at, sort of one or two things that are kind of driving the industry that may be equally as tricky, what are they, and how do we sort it out as an industry?
Well, I think it's been well said at this point, but we're looking at in the last year, probably 10 years worth of innovation and transformation packed into a very short period of time. And just keeping up with that change and the innovation. So many brands have moved so aggressively into direct to consumer, e-commerce. I got a brief this morning from a client that said, 90% of our sales are now going to be direct to consumer. This is a big company. And I said, I just have to remind you, a year ago, you told us you would never sell direct to consumer. So this is somebody who spends hundreds of millions of dollars. So you have to think about, these types of transformations and the types of people that we have. We're blessed with, 30,000+ people around the world. So we have a big roster, but I think about when I was running Essence and we were 2,000 people, you build a team for a certain purpose, and then all of a sudden that purpose shifts dramatically. It can be a difficult transition for folks.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned commerce and DTC. What do you think will be the biggest trend in this year when it comes to, or the biggest challenge, this year? And I guess what's your prediction for, what's going to happen as we move along? Where do you see things headed?
Well, let's start with prediction. Change, more change, and more change. I think you're seeing just a proliferation of digital platforms, of direct-to-consumer experiences, of OTT, of new paid media opportunities. It's just a tremendous amount of flex in the system right now. And I think the way we're starting to value media, the rise of environmentalism, social consciousness, ethical use of data, you're looking well beyond click-throughs and GRPs into, a new math of measurement that I think people are going to have to get their head around. It's going to require new tools. It's going to require new types of partnerships with our media partnerships. And I think that, we're leading the way in a lot of that, but it's going to take the industry to come together and really, demand some change in the ways that things have been done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that's so interesting is if you look at consumer behavior now, it's sort of we're all a little bit different after all this.
Yeah.
So I guess what sort of consumer behavior activities are going to be driving the trends, this year and beyond?
Well, consumers, there won't be, people talk about getting back to 2019. We'll never get back to 2019. 2021 is going to look completely different than 2020 or 2019. And the behaviors have permanently changed. So people are used to working remotely. I was thinking right before we started this interview, this is the kind of thing I probably would have flown to New York for in the past, or we would have figured out a way to do it. And, we realized that this is just as good. In many ways, sometimes these things are better. You get people, in their own environments, much more comfortable. And I think, the consumer behavior shifts are not that different. They're used to getting content even more so than they used to be, when they want it, how they want it, on whatever device they want it. It's the return of long format as people are sheltering in place and watching more series, more binging. So you're seeing, importance in OTT, but also importance in knowing your consumer. I mean, e-commerce has been such an explosive growth story for this time period. And I think, the brands that have really accelerated in e-commerce and know their consumer have benefited incredibly. And those who treat the same person the same time every time are probably less advantaged. So, I think you're going to see changes like that and, continued winners and losers in that space.
Yes, yes. It's amazing how much the mix has changed in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
But I guess,
Well, and the mix has changed, but also think about, the importance of brand safety and trustworthiness and what we've seen in the elections and government intervention and the civil unrest and, on, which I think a lot of advertisers are, longing for the days of Disney in some ways where, they knew exactly what they were getting and exactly how it could play out. And I think we have amazing opportunities to create, transformational relationships with the digital platforms and to create, really good branded experiences. And certainly that's where, we're seeing the migration of eyeballs. But I think it requires, again, sort of a new math and a new understanding of, what these environments look like.
Yes. No, I like the concept of new math. So within this new math, is there a platform that you're bullish on, or things that people should be paying attention to? I don't want to nail you down to one, but just things that you really like, that you're like, oh, this is what we're talking to our clients about, or they're coming to us about.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't single any single one out. I've always been excited about digital. I think it provides incredible experiences. I've also been very critical of digital, saying that we need to do more in that space. We need to create more curated experiences. We need to create more personalized experiences, more respectful use of consumer data. And when those things don't happen that way, we see some of the things that we've seen this year. I think for sure the most valuable experiences that we're all trying to get to are, using broadcast television for, big moments where you can really reach broad ranges of people. And I've gone on record saying, there's nothing like television. It's one of the things that I learned coming into Group M. But I will back that up by saying there's nothing like television supported by a really good broad reach program in digital, so that you lead into events, you amplify these events, and then you prolong those events into a way so you can have a meaningful conversation with your consumers. And you're seeing that now with Super Bowl. A lot of people are leading up into it very nicely using digital platforms, extending into YouTube and other places, to create a moment that will bring, probably the world together at a much needed time. And then how they treat that afterwards and how they extend that, I think those are the marketers that are winning right now. And that requires understanding of your consumer, a new type of measurement, insane partnerships with all these different media players around the world in order to be able to do that and make it all work together. So
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on, but I think when it comes down to, awarding somebody for excellence, for the past year, and I think everybody should be awarded in some way, shape, or form for having navigated so many tricky moments and powering through and finding new ways to succeed. So, in respect to these awards and other awards, like what does a winning award submission need to have, in your opinion?
I think a winning award submission can be a lot of different things. And I hate to be wishy-washy, but this is why you see different types of awards win. My background, I'm a bit of a technician and a technologist. So for me, I like to see all the little pieces line up really well. I like to see a well thought out plan that it really does extend across all media formats, and it builds a story, and it has the right amount of frequency and it has the right amount of audience understanding built into it. And I tend to be a sucker for those types of campaigns because I know how complex they are to set up, and I know what a mastery of media that requires in order to find all the right partners at the right moment in time with the right message. And but then again, I was judging awards the other day, and the Moldy Whopper blew me away. It was an internal one that we were fortunate enough to do, but I just thought sometimes you get faced with a great piece of creative that just makes you think and it makes you stop. And I think that's the beauty of advertising is you can have both. So I think it depends. Certainly right now, I think a lot of our creatives and a lot of our media companies have been challenged with this new reality of D2C and consumer power, and how they're breaking through in that sense and what they're doing in those formats. So I think you'll see some interesting entries, or at least hoping to. But that gives you a sense. I think I truly mean anything can win. For me, I think what you're looking for is something that's going to be unique, that's going to stand out, and that can be in either the art of the plan, or in the message itself, or the creative idea.
Terrific. So I'm gonna drill down into that a little bit, and then I'm gonna ask you to give our viewers at home, sort of one actionable insight that if there's something a piece of advice or a tip that you'd like to give them. But yeah, I think everything you said is 100% accurate. There's so many ways to appreciate the technical aspect and the creative aspect. And the thing that was so interesting about this year is we really leaned into digital. We had to. Events went out the window, and we know that a lot of these channels will come back in different ways or whatever. But I guess if there was something that's when you were looking at these things, or that that really makes them stand out from, it could even be a combination of both media and creative, but just something that kind of it really gives you a spark when you're looking at these things that go, oh, I must pay note. I have to pay attention to that.
Oh, I'm an optimist by nature, and I think I like experiences that remind me that as painful as the last year has been, a recognition of it in a human way, but also, a return to optimism and reminding people that, we get through this together. We've been through tough times together before, but that the human spirit is, ultimately, something that we can build from, and that we'll come back in a stronger way than we were before. I said it won't be like 2019 or 2020. It'll be better yet when we come back, because we've been through something hard together. And I think, the moments, the music, the art that I'm resonating most strongly with now has that type of recognition within it.
Terrific. I'm with you.
Good.
I think we all need to be optimistic. The other route is no good. It's just
it's really not. You don't want to go down there.
It's the wrong turn. So and it's good that we get to celebrate winners. So this will be fun. So I guess in closing, if there's one thing that you'd kind of like people to remember, in addition to be optimistic, when it comes to the craft and winning and succeeding, what's something they should keep in mind?
Take risk. Take what you decide what your appropriate level of risk is. But this is an industry that has always rewarded the risk takers and those that, to use the cliche, but do think outside the box. And it sounds like coming from the data and the technology guy who says sort of, you can build the perfect plan incrementally and everything else, but you have to do that. But also at some point you got to take a leap. And whether that's, in your media experience, or whether that's in your creative message, one thing that we've seen through this year is we are able to get through unknowns. We're able to get through surprises. And I think sometimes, we're too formulaic. And so if we can, take that risk, push the boundary, that's always a great place for us to start.
I love that. And so in summary, from the data person, be less formulaic.
Be formulaic, but then also take a risk on top of it. That's what I'd love to see.
And be optimistic.
How about the smart risk? Should I refine it to take the smart risk? How about that?
Smart risk. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's going to be great. We all look forward to seeing the winners. I want to thank everybody at home for tuning in. It's going to be interesting to see who kind of rose above the rest. I encourage you to check it out. It's digitaladvertisingawards.com. That's pretty should be easy enough to remember. Glad we got that one. You could also check us out on social media at the hashtag the Drum Awards. And that's it. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks for the drum, for everything you guys are doing in the industry. Much appreciated.
Well, we appreciate it too. And goodbye for now.